Hello guys, welcome to Zach Animate Studios. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, and today we are all about APIs. And first and foremost, let's remind ourselves what we were doing sometimes back. Remember, we had created a Laravel application. So a Laravel application where we had used Bootstrap to do all this stuff. So let me just reduce this font. By the way, to reduce something, you can just use Control minus on your screen and then Control plus on Control plus on your screen. Control plus, Control minus. You can do something like that. So guys, that is just one trick. And then second, so guys, we were talking about Bootstrap in our application. I'm just going to use this Bootstrap, and then we are going also to introduce APIs. So guys, you can imagine you have an application and you want to diversify. I want somebody to create for me an app for my application. So applications, let's say web apps, applications on Android store, on Android, applications on App Store, so something like that. So you have your own system, you have a shop, and you want somebody to access it on a mobile application. API is the way to go. API is going to change your data so that it can be read by those apps. So basically, APIs these are JavaScript, these are JavaScript types of information, and basically you are converting your data into JavaScript to be read in a JavaScript format. So we call them APIs. API, by look and feel, they look like this, they look like this, ugly like this. Okay, this is how API looks ugly. And the applications that read API, we have Postman. So basically, I get the URL, that is the endpoint of that application, and then I send it to that. So basically, I connect that, and what it happens, it enhances security of your application. So you can decide to have two types of application: the client side application and the client side, that is the front end, and then the back end, that is the back end system of this, the back end of your application, that is the database, right? At this point, Laravel provides us with the two. So this is the backend of our database. It is hosted on our system, and if I want to use the same system to be accessed all over the world, I can just expose the endpoint. What is the endpoint? Is this URL, and this URL can be configured into anything of your system. So guys, if you are thinking of creating a universal system and you want to change your application to API, you can still use Laravel, and that is how applications are made. Data is converted into API. API have the endpoints, and it has a lot of features, guys. What I'm talking about, let's say you want to sell, let's say you want to sell data. These are types like RSS, all those kinds. So people are subscribing to your system, or you have post, because data can be sold, and this is how people sell data. So this is just one of my thoughts of how somebody. So with your API, you can program your API. If somebody make request to your application, you can configure it such that in a number of requests per day, that is how like big companies does. If you make some number of requests per day, you are told that you cannot continue, you have to subscribe to this system. So basically, you have made some number of requests to this system. So you can do the same thing for your own application. So, and it's just the concepts of product API, like you're creating a API, that is an API of your application. So this is how ugly it looks like, and we want now to convert our normal controllers, get controller, the index controller, that is the product controller, the product controller, which is the product index. You see, when you are using HTML, it will look as good as this because it is within the same system, right? And the same system. And if you want now to access to multiple or thousands of people, you convert into API, just like that. So the way to go about it is, I've just used my product controller, and then we have the product on the root. Remember, on Laravel we have the web. Web is responsible for pages, the normal pages the normal pages of your application, right? The normal pages of your application. But now when it comes to API, you're going to convert that information into API root, just like that. And then I'll specify the class that is being called on. So we are going to create the same class. We can follow that. So we have the product public function API index. We are going to select data, and then we are going to convert into JSON response. That is, we are going to add like message, success, and then the data. So you can convert, you can add more parameters into your JSON. You can create more if true statements or if false statement. If false statement is if the response is going to be false, then it's going to tell you that there is no data. That is how big you can program now how the response of your data. As normal as normal function index is just product all functions, like all products with that. So you can still use that, and then after you've done that, the data is passed. Now that data is just passed as information, and then with this, with the normal coding, that now that the normal coding is the normal just product, it is passed through the view, and then the view is then looped. So you can still do the same with this data. You can still loop. Let me just go back here. You can still, now this is just an array of information. This is an array of information from the database, the entire database. So you can convert that, and it is fast, it is easy, it is light. It is basically, conversion is so easy when you are using APIs into data, like working with data, and like the request from normal, this normal request from HTML, because it's going to pass first, is going to pass the view, the container, the view, and then now it also passes the data, which is now the same data. But with this, it is only the data. And with the application, that is with JavaScript, it will just be waiting for the data to be passed through. So client applications, you can have just APIs, and then also you can have now the back end, the front end. That is, you can use React, you can use Laravel, you can use Angular. So me, I'm a fan of Ionic framework. With this API, I'm going to create now an app. That is, we're going to create an app of products with this on the next coming video. And then something I just realized is, when you're working with an existing project, like an older project, let's say you had installed Laravel sometimes back 3 times or 4 days, like a week or a month ago, you need to pass in Laravel prompts. Composer require Laravel prompts. Laravel prompts so that it can update your root list, so that when you do now the API link will come through. So with that, guys, you are going to get all the roots that you are having on your application. Like, all these are APIs, like API roots that are within this application. So with that, we have just created a simple API. So we are going to have like another version, that is a code version of this. Now we can now just use Laravel. This, you can still use Laravel to create a single application, or you can now just create a client application that is just the front end. So guys, I'm not confusing you with these terms, but just have to, now the client application just now consumes the API. So this application will just be consuming the API. Now the API is this is the information from the database, and that information is only about product. You can see, you can find other applications, they just like API users, like something just like that, like we have API users, but it's not on this application. So you will see there is an error 44, but if you just do users, I think it's there, that from Laravel, I think it's there, users, but it is an API, it's an API function from root list here. I'm sorry, this is the root list that we are talking about. I saw it here, users, right? Users is also an API, so from user control. So that is how you do APIs. So you can still do CRUD function, so you can still public function in now that is now this for store, public function API store. It's just like that, okay? API store, and then API store, and then so API store, it's going to be an API, and then on the API you are going to do you're going to have a root for store. Okay, now at this point you can also just the same thing, Control C, Control V. Okay, so API products dot store, and then class API store, API store. So that is how you create now, and then just see it's working, it's going to go on that, and then you can still check the root list, okay? PHP artisan artisan root list, and then you're going to see the roots. So sometimes you want to have your APIs, you want to have your roots immediately. Basically you create the root so that when you're working on it is not broken. So APIs to API, I think it's APIs to, I don't know if it's there, but somehow it needs to be there, so it has to come across. So basically that is how you create your API, and then it's going to work. Okay, so it's not a get, I think it's a API store, it's a post. Okay, it's a post. API, it's a post. So at this point also it's a post, like it's not a get, it's a post. I mean a post because you are adding information into the system. By the way, that's not another thing. Creating information is you are posting, and then deleting. Delete is a delete function. So it's a delete function, as you can see here on the root, right? It's a delete is a destroy function. Like a delete is a function on it. Post, and then get is to get the head. So there's other forms of get. There's setters that you're going to put into your data. So there is API keys and all that, but you're going to look them in, let's say when we are creating a Laravel, an Ionic CRUD function app. Looking forward in the next video, guys. So let me prepare my create function, create, update, delete, and then I'm just going to share it with you, and then we can use that to add information into our database, into this database of products, these important functions of product. By the way, I did a lot in terms of this thing. You can see when somebody creates a product, let's just read. When somebody creates a product, say there's a selling price and all that, and then get the total. We can still look into those amazing codes that still work, and you can still, so subscribe to this amazing channel and be part of this amazing community. Zach Animate Studios, creativity one step at a time, and you will never lack, you'll never lose anything. Just learn and learn and learn and be king and be our just support us. By the way, if you need to support us, our numbers will be down on the screen. You can support us with 5 shillings, 10 shillings, so that we can continue sharing these amazing skills and we can be better. Guys, subscribe and thank you, and be part of this community. Subscribe to this amazing channel, guys. Tell your friend, tell your nyanyes, your bros, and tell somebody who just wants to know more about programming. This is the place to go and this is the way. So cheers, adios, and God bless you guys. Next video, Ionic framework with Laravel.